Welcome to the Health Coach Nation podcast. My name is Hailey Rowe, and I'm a sales and marketing coach and LinkedIn lead generation service provider. I work with health, life, and mindset coaches and online service-based business owners to help them get more sales, shift their time to the client-generating activities instead of just the busy work, and overcome that social media overwhelm. Let's get into the show. If you're ready to take on your next paying clients, I have good news. My free 4 Basics of Client Attraction and How to Stand Out class is live at haileyrowe.com/client-attraction. In the class, you're going to learn the top 2 traits I recommend for most coaches and entrepreneurs if they really want to turn this into a career. You're going to learn how you can build demand for your services and stop getting crickets on your posts. You're going to learn the sales roadmap I used to improve my sales conversion rate and help my clients do the same. And you're going to learn so much more. So go to haileyrowe.com/client-attraction and get your copy of the class today. Hey, I'm here with a special guest today, and we are going to talk about how you can grow both your business and your life at the same time. And I added in there without over hustling and doing it in a way that's scalable. So why don't you introduce yourself here and tell them your name, where you are in the world and your story, and then we'll get into the questions.
Yeah, thanks, Hailey. So hi, everyone. I'm Athin Cassiotis. I'm all the way in Sydney, Australia, and tell you a little bit about my story. So I grew up in Adelaide in South Australia, which is a smaller capital city here, and parents were high school teachers. They wanted me to, study well and do all those standard things. And I actually started my entrepreneurial journey at high school selling VCD movies. Now, I don't know how old you are, if you remember those, but this was before DVDs, and I had a DVD burner, and I would, burn them and sell them to my friends. But then towards the end of high school, I wasn't enjoying it anymore. And I basically dropped out of my final year. And you can imagine my parents being high school teachers didn't like that. They tried to get me university a different way. That didn't happen. So I got a job at 18 at a big environmental company. And then, I was kicking a lot of goals there, doing very well for about 5.5 years. And the head office in Sydney headhunted me for a role, being the middleman with all of the national accounts and the business development department there. So I thought, why not do the move to Sydney? And that's where a lot of things changed. And it was interesting, right? As I reflect back, when I dropped out, my dad told me I'll never be able to study, right? And he had 3 degrees, and, he saw that I couldn't even finish school. And my teachers actually told me I wouldn't be successful. So you can just imagine the limiting things that, can affect us when people tell us these things. And then when I moved to Sydney, my dad said, you wouldn't last 6 months, because everything was done for me at home, right? I never fended for myself. So that's where it started in Sydney. I did a lot of great projects there. And then everyone was talking about degrees and things, and I had nothing. And I looked around at the top universities and realized I could get into doing an MBA, a Master of Business Administration, based on over 8 years experience working. So I got into the MBA, started doing a lot of the core subjects. Then, basically there was a change of management. I left after 10.5 years, and I started my first business, which is waste management consulting. So taking all of my experience, and now I was helping big clients like Shopping Centre Group Westfield, which are all over the world as well as Australia, save over $4 million a year. Helped Kmart and Target, 2 big department stores, save over $2 million a year. Defense, a lot of big clients there getting some success. And then people would come to me at networking events and other events and say, Athin, what do you think about this? I've got these challenges in my business. I'm like, well, why don't you do A, B, C, D, E? And they're like, oh, that's really good. Can you say that again? I need to write that down. And I'm like, okay, cool. And then I realized I had a very good strategic brain, very good memory and connecting dots. And I thought, well, I'm great at this. I enjoy it. I may as well start a business out of this. So started business coaching, mentoring into 2019, just before COVID. So mostly virtual, helping a lot of clients all over the world there in a variety of ways. Whether they're startups, 6-figure, 7-figure, 8-figure businesses, grow and scale to create wealth and freedom. And I also started my podcast towards the start of COVID, like you, and interviewed a lot of big names there as well, and also looking at acquiring businesses. So doing a variety of things which I enjoy, while also enjoying my life at the same time, which is important there. So that's a little bit about my backstory and what I do. And yeah, we can get into it more now.
Amazing. Thank you for that debrief. And yeah, some of your guests have been Jay Abraham, Jillian Michaels, and a couple others. So I'm curious, how does one go about getting those big guests?
Yeah, great question. And the simple answer to this is relationships, right? And that's anything in business really is relationships. So, Jay Abraham, was through one of my coaches, right? Where he was coached by him for many years, and I built the relationship with him, and I got an introduction, and it wasn't guaranteed, right? But I asked the question. Most people are probably too scared to ask for the connection to be introduced to somebody like that. Now, I already had some people on the podcast first, so I think one of my first two were Bruce Buffer, the UFC announcer, and Jillian Michaels, and through another coach of mine, got some introductions there to be able to do that. And then as you start to get like one name and multiple, it's easier. It's like getting a big brand, whatever context, because then you can refer back to that. Hey, I've had this person on there, right? So it's about when to ask as well. I've had some big people in Australia too. So, you can't just ask, right? In any relationship, there's a thing called like relational capital. You got to provide value first. If anyone's more successful than you, how can I provide value first? So provide value. Then when you've provided value to a certain extent, you have to use situational awareness to just know, okay, I think this is the best time to ask at this time. And sometimes it may not happen at that time. Sometimes you have to be persistent. I've asked people like 5 times before I've got a yes. Most people would stop at once, right, to do that. So understanding that, hopefully you get it the first time, maybe you have to go a different way. I've tried to get someone that's big in Australia now multiple times through different avenues. It hasn't happened yet, but I'm still being persistent to make, because I'm confident I'm going to get them at some point through somebody. So it's that persistence, building the relationships, adding value, and then, getting that connection and then delivering.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, I totally hear you on that. Very big on relationship marketing, collaboration marketing, value-based marketing. And I got to interview Amy Porterfield one time on my show, and I now you're right, it is easier to mention like, hey, and now, this. But here's what a lot of people are going to be thinking, listening to this. Well, I don't really know anybody, and I don't have any big connections. And what value do I have to bring to the table if I don't have a big audience? So what I'm hearing is traits wise, you want to be a value giver, you want to be persistent, etc. But what if somebody has that mindset of like, but what do I have to bring to the table? What would you say to them?
Yeah, so there's a couple of things, right? Like start where you have relationships. Like at the start of my podcast, a lot of the episodes were people that I had in my network. So now hopefully you've got people in your network that are, on the theme of your show. I'm sure you do have some people at least that you can interview. It doesn't matter where you start, who you start with, or go to events or go to programs or something where these people are going to be, right? Like be in proximity to where these people are. And there's a saying always, that you can be, when you pay attention, or sometimes you have to pay to play, right, as well. So for example, at some of these events that you go to, you can get a normal ticket in the crowd that's a bit further back, or you could buy a ticket towards the front, and maybe there's some extra benefits. Maybe you have a Q&A, maybe you have a networking room. If you get those type of tickets when you go to events, you're going to be mixing with people of a higher caliber most of the time because they value these things. And that's how you can start to connect with higher level people. So that's an example of thinking about how I can do that. Maybe it's in, coaching, mentoring programs and masterminds and things where you can connect with these people as well. So think about, use your network. You've already got some sort of network now. Connect to more people, add value, and know who's connected to who. Like I knew that someone was good friends with this person from a long time ago, right? So I knew this before. So going into something, when I've added enough value, I say, hey, can you introduce me to this person there? So do your homework, right? Like ask around, ask to know who's connected to who at the same time. Because, you don't just go in without a strategy. Like in business, like in life, you have to have strategies to what you do. So start wherever you can. But sometimes it's like, I'll give an example. It's like getting a pitcher. Maybe let's use a big name like Gary Vee. Most people will probably know Gary Vee. So you can go to an event and you can get a normal ticket, or you could pay a high level ticket and you can get a picture with Gary Vee. You got to pay to get that picture, but you've met Gary Vee, you got to say hello and you got to meet him and you can use that, right? So sometimes to get access to people, you have to do that, whether it's pictures, whether it's coaching programs, whatever like that. So think that it's an investment, just like anything, to do that. So sometimes you have to do that, but that could be the one door that helps to open others.
Yeah. Okay. Got it. Love that. And now what about if somebody wants to grow in business and life? When you say that, what do you mean? Like, why do you tie the two together? Tell me more about that.
Yeah, well, I think business is really a vehicle for life. You know, most people, when they go into business, like they're working so many hours and they neglect their life a lot of the time because, you know, they have to make money. Business is important. Yes, definitely. But whether it's one business or like me, you have multiple businesses, you realize that you can't do that forever. You get burnt out, you overwork yourself, all these other areas, you can lose your health potentially. There's a lot of potential ramifications if you don't do that. So really, you should be planning your life first. So put in your non-negotiables. Like, what is it? Like, I want to have my birthday off each year. I want to have at least one day off on the weekends where I can enjoy it for myself, with my partner, with my family, whatever stage of life and relationships you're in. You know, what else do you want to do in your life? Because what happens with business, it basically fills in the rest of the gaps. If you're a business owner, and especially if you're working still in the business, it's different if you have it under management, so to speak, and you've got all the people in place and you don't have to do much. That's great. But if you're before that stage, then it's easy to just do work whenever, getting up early, late, weekends, we can easily fill it in. So fill in the life stuff first and then go, okay, well, what do I want in my life? And then go, okay, well, I'm using this business or other businesses as vehicles to create the life that I want. And it's not just the business income and that and the profit, but then it's also talking about wealth after. Because like, what am I putting my money into? Like, what am I, because you're not going to be working forever, right? Or maybe we will to some extent, maybe when we're a lot older, but maybe not as hard. So what can we put our money into in our business that's going to be growing our wealth over time and growing our cash flow so that we don't have to do as much as we get older? So you have to think about all of these things and really enjoy yourself. So, you know, all the business strategies are important. I do a lot of mindset things, being an NLP master practitioner as well. So I help clients with their mindset, but it's also then, what do we do with that? How do we create the life you desire? And the more I chat to my clients, it's more about like, you hear about other things going on and go like, it could be, hey, when was the last time you had a date night with your partner? They're like, oh, it's been a year or two. Or like, let's put date nights in once a week, right? So you can enjoy yourselves, like little things like that can come in where you get fulfillment in your life and you can enjoy it.
Love that. Yes. I've heard some kind of quote like you want to own your business, not your business to own you, or you want to plan your business around your life and not your life around your business or whatever. So I think that that's a very good message and thing to strive for. But I do see a lot of people, you know, feel like, oh my gosh, there's so much, and they get very overwhelmed. And sometimes they just, you know, fall into old patterns or overwork or things like that. And so how do you manage? Because if you've worked with huge projects and huge companies, obviously they have teams and systems and things like that. But what are some ways for the entrepreneur who maybe is running a lot of different things in their business at this time, they don't have a big team, and they are wearing all the hats? What are some tips you have for them to manage the overwhelm and start thinking differently to allow them to grow and things like that?
Yeah, so a lot of the time it's about planning. So how are you scheduling and planning things and strategizing? So for example, having a project management system is a great system to have. So there's so many out there, I can mention a lot, but basically have a system where you can put projects in place, you can break it down into tasks. Because what's the saying, how to eat an elephant, eat it one piece at a time. Not that I've ever eaten an elephant before, but that's the saying there is you got to break things down. It's easy to be like, wow, I've got all these big projects, too much stuff on. most of the time it's probably because you haven't broken it down into something that you can take action on. So make sure that you're breaking it down into the steps. And once you break it down and you just start on that first step, you'll go, okay, cool. I've got a little bit of some momentum here. But then you've also, planned overall what you're going to be doing. And there's also Stephen Covey in the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, great book, talks about the urgent, important matrix, right? Where it's like urgent, important, not important, important, not urgent, all of those areas there. And most people don't spend enough time on the non-urgent, important area because we're always, it's urgent, just doing the day-to-day. But the non-urgent important stuff is actually the stuff that grows the business, that you work on the business, that is strategic here. So understanding there's different types of tasks that you do as well. So if you just keep doing the urgent stuff, you're probably just going to be turning the wheels and just staying in that stage where you have to allocate some time. Likely at the start of the day, there's another great book, Eat That Frog, where it talks about doing your biggest task at the start of the day. Because if you leave it to the end, it probably won't happen because all these urgent and other firefighting things pop up. So how you structure your day, doing that important thing. So if you've got this big project, break it down, do it at the start, do as much as you can. Then, don't do your emails for 3 hours in the morning, right? Do it, maybe quickly have a look, do the big task, and maybe around lunchtime in the middle of the day, you check your emails, and at the end of the day, you check them, but then you're allocating your time correctly. So I think that's important. And if you're at the start of your business, you don't have much of a team, then also at some point getting like a virtual assistant, I think is really important because, yes, we might have to wear a lot of hats, and we do in a business, but there's a lot of admin type tasks or simple tasks that a virtual assistant that, you can get decently priced for those assistants depending on where you are in the world, that can help a lot with that. And people are like, oh yeah, but they don't do it as good as me, right? Or they're not as quick as me. There's all these limiting things. And you know what? Be okay that they're going to do it maybe 80% as well as you. Be okay that they're not going to be as fast or as good, and they may make some mistakes. But you know what? If you get 100% output compared to 180% output, or even 150% output of you, it's better than just 100% of just you. So, and that's how you structure them. So put those plans in place, structure things correctly, work out what priorities are when you do them in the day, and then also, look at delegating, getting virtual assistants or then other team members as you grow, depending on what your business type is.
Nice. Yeah, I agree. We have a podcast about outsourcing and hiring a virtual assistant with Nate Hirsch. So if anybody's listening to this, you could search Health Coach Nation, Nate Hirsch, and hear all about how do you go about that process, because it can be a new thing for a lot of people. And when it comes to growing your business and, making sure that it's aligned and whatnot, I'm curious, is there anything in particular that's helped you grow the most as far as your marketing, your lead gen? Because we talk a lot about that on this show, that you'd share with this audience?
Yeah, I think partnerships are a big factor of big growth, because if you can create a partnership, that could give you tens or even hundreds of clients compared to just doing one-on-one. Speaking has an element of that as well, where you can do a one-to-many model, but I think partnerships is really the biggest. So think about who in your industry has a similar market and how you can work together. Maybe they have a gap. Maybe you have a specific set of skills and they have a different set of skills that if you put them together, it's a really powerful offer for your market. The complementary skills here we're talking about, or an offer depending on what your business type is. So think about who has a similar market and build those relationships. Comes back to relationships again, but build those relationships over time. Meet these people. If you can meet them in person, even better, because everyone's doing Zooms or whatever video calls these days with people. But, one of my coaches always said, if it's someone's very successful, you go to them, right? So if you really want to build a relationship, and this could be flying around the world, sometimes to meet people, but if they're local to you, it makes it a lot easier. No excuses, basically, to go and see them, because you can just build a relationship better in person than you can. I interviewed someone on my podcast. I then was, in Europe for, traveling. And then I went to, visited them in Switzerland at their house. And this is someone extremely successful, got a business from 1 million all the way up to $5 billion. Spent 4 hours with them and looking at, partnering and doing things. So you never know where it's going to lead. But I went out there and reached out to them and said, hey, can I do this? And I made it work when I was there. So think about how you can do these partnerships, because what happens is they're doing the marketing and the sales for you a lot of the time. If they've already got the clients, these partnerships, you don't have to do the marketing and sales. It's actually a partnership. Now, it could be vice versa as well. Maybe you can do marketing and sales and you can say, hey, I can now provide all of this because I have this partner, and they're doing the same right on their end. So I think that's a really powerful strategy that if you get this, you can call it joint ventures. There's a lot of different names for partnerships. I think that's probably the biggest one. Yes, we can talk about normal, having different marketing strategies like social media and SEO and different ads and, all these organic methods and then working on sales and having it in your CRM and all that. And they're all very important. Yes, you should do that. But if you really want big, massive growth in your business, just one partnership could double 10x plus your business if you get it right and sign these deals.
Yeah, I agree. I wish I knew that earlier in my business, because the last 2 years or so, well, I would say year and a half, I've been more focused on partnerships, collaborations, affiliate, having an affiliate program myself or a referral program. And it's been huge, and it's been a great email list builder, a great way to actually give value up front and get in front of people and do a training or something. Scalable, meaning you're not doing it one-to-one, like you said. And I've developed now a whole training on that in my Thriving Coach membership and in the Coach Inner Circle. And it's just I think a lot of people feel afraid to do that because they're like, well, I don't know, this person might be too big for me, quote unquote, or I don't know how to approach them. And so all of those things are just little obstacles that you have to break down and put a strategy in place, test it, have the boldness to try it out. But if it pays off, it could be huge. Like you said, one partnership. And there will be partnerships that maybe aren't as great, but you have to start trying different ones to know which kind of partners tend to be the best for you and complement what you do. So if somebody is a coach and maybe they offer life coaching or health coaching, because a lot of people listening on my podcast are one of those. One thing that I find is they feel like people don't see the value in what they offer, or people say, oh, I don't need that right now. And I'm curious how because if you have worked with such big brands, any advice for them to help position the value of what they do better and help people see why they need this now, as opposed to, that'd be nice, but not right now.
Yeah, great question. And I've worked with life coaches before as well. So it's always an interesting one because it's intangible somewhat to extent. Health coaching is a little bit more tangible if you can maybe put weight behind it as well sometimes, but it's not always about weight with health. It could just be about being healthier overall, and that's just a result of it. But life coaching, improving your life, your mindset and all of that, it's a bit more challenging to be tangible. So understand that there are challenges, but there's ways that you can do it. You have to make it as tangible as possible in what you're doing. So what are the results that you've gotten? A lot of the time when you start your business, maybe you do some things for free a little bit, or, you get some runs on the board. What type of results are you getting your clients, right? So how was their life in turmoil and then they're now amazing and they found an amazing partner, or what are the results? There could be anything in their life where they were having a lot of challenges and then you've helped them get there, because talking about the results and having your testimonials, whether it's videos or written and things like that, will be important on how you do that. So think about, how can I do that? Another element here is with your messaging. So there's going to be so many people that are not right for you because they're like, I don't need a life coach. My life is fine. That's fine. You're not trying to work with those people, right? You want the people that are like, my life's crap. My health is crap. I need help with this. So what's the messaging? What content or, messages are you putting out there in different mediums that's going to connect with them? And a lot of the time, it's about listening to their language. Now, you can speak to maybe your previous clients or analyze people online, or you can do some polls, on social media, or do some surveys and find out what are people's biggest problems in this area with their life, with their health, and then you market it to those people. So in my life, it could just be that, I'm overwhelmed, or, I feel like XYZ, right, is happening. Or I feel like my health, like my body, I can't wake up in the morning. I've got pain everywhere. I'm not eating properly. I'm 30 kilos overweight. Could be anything. So find out what these things are, and then you specifically mark them so you can attract that person. And yes, there may be some haters or people that don't care about it, but you don't care about those people. There's always going to be people like that. You want to, work on those people there and put it in different means. So that would be the biggest ones that I would say that how you do that. And if I was going to be interesting, if I'll do a bit of a high level strategy, right, for people here today to give some extra value, is that who's your target market? Are you just going to individual people? Like, is it just a person that's in a job at home? Is this a business owner type of entrepreneur type person, or in like a business to consumer type B2C? Or maybe do you want to do a B2B? Maybe do you want to go to bigger organizations and you want to provide a service to them that is different? Hey, let's do a bit of a well-being thing for a big organization and help with their health or with their life and things like that. So you can test these things, like we talk about testing here today, is yes, working direct with people is awesome, but maybe test a corporate, type of offer as well, because that could be a one-to-many model. It could be partnerships, exactly what we've been talking about today, that could work in conjunction. So don't just think there's only one way of doing things. There are multiple ways of doing things in business. This is why obviously having coaches and mentors to give you ideas like this is important, like how Hailey and I help our clients. So, when you start to think about this, go, okay, this is actually possible. How do I do that? Okay, let me reach out. Let me test. Things might not work initially, but eventually you should be able to, get clients over the line.
Yes. Awesome input. So how can everybody connect with you and learn more about what you do?
Yeah, so you can find me all over different social media platforms. I know this is on LinkedIn. I'm also on, Facebook and Instagram as Athin Cassiotis. So ATHIN CASSIOTIS. There's only one of me online, so that's really easy to find me. Which definitely rare. That is rare. That's right. So that helps, even though the name's a little bit interesting. As well, I've also got my website, athincassiotis.com. There's so many different areas there. I've also got a link tree /Athin Cassiotis there with a lot of different links. And if you want to book I have a free 15-minute, growth session. If you want to get a few strategies like this, I'm happy to add value, because I know when I add value, I get it back, 10 or 100 times more in different ways. So feel free to reach out. Or I've got a business growth summit that I do for a couple of hours that if you want some free value there, I talk about different areas of business. It's just, businessgrowthsummit.com.au. Feel free to come in and enjoy that. It is virtual, so no matter where you are in the world, you can enjoy that too. But yeah, I love just helping people, being on shows like this, Hailey. So I'm very grateful for being on here and able to, provide some value to you and your audience.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming. Appreciate the value you gave here. And we will definitely link all that up in the show notes. Thanks so much.
Awesome. Thank you.
Hey, thanks so much for listening to this podcast. And if it's really helpful for you, I'd really appreciate if you share it and or leave a written podcast review. This tells the podcast sites that our show is useful and it will be promoted to more people that way. Thanks again.